Welcome back to the Supercoach Hub AFL podcast. You're with the host, Nathan Scoble, and the other host, Joshy. Firstly, mate, how are you?
I'm good. Starting to get a bit nervous. The season's approaching quite quickly, and everyone's been thrown up a little curveball with Darcy being out for the first 6 to 8 rounds.
Yeah, interesting, because news came through literally like an hour ago that it's been reported on Channel 9 that Darcy is actually out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's huge for Jackson, and we'll talk about that soon. Firstly, we just wanted to thank our sponsor, Honeyball. Check him out if you can. There's heaps of benefits over there. And as you can probably tell, if you're watching the live stream, we don't have Verns. We don't have Pleb. That was understandable. So I think the quality is going to go up tonight, Joshy. Not to pump us up too much, mate. But firstly, is it good to have footy back or what?
Yeah, well, people say that was opening around any good. I think I'd probably prefer it than the alternative no footy for an extra week. But I think it kind of killed a bit of the hype for round one. But again, I think I prefer footy than no footy, and we got to see a couple of relevant players and how they went in an actual game. So we'll get into that soon.
I mean, especially the bloke you've been talking up for literally the last 4 months. Jack Billings played an absolute blinder, didn't he, mate?
Oh, mate. That actually, that made me genuinely depressed. I was out at the time, and I got about 15 tags in all different chats and even Twitter and stuff saying Billings is sub, and I was like, you are absolutely kidding me. I couldn't believe it, and yeah, not happy.
No, I know you weren't, mate. The reaction you gave me is something that I can't actually repeat right now. But we'll move into the games. So we had the Swans not destroy. They won by around about 4 goals against the D's. What was your main takeaways from this game, mate?
Billings isn't an option anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. A few other things though, Yeah.
Yeah, from
Let's score
38%
11, which
time
is
on ground.
bloody solid. Should make some money from that.
Yeah,
Also, Laurie's
absolutely.
not an option anymore after getting subbed off, which sucks. I think the main thing though was Gordon's in 40% of sides. I don't think you can start him anymore with that 70 whatever it was. They score 77 points.
Yeah,
I don't think you
77.
can start him anymore. Yeah, with that extra buy and that score, he's probably going to drop a bit of coin. Grundy was massive, and if you're not starting him, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And the patience with Gawn, he scored 180 a week ago in a practice game. That 70 score or whatever it was, don't be too scared about it. It doesn't count towards your season, and yeah, still pick Gawn.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. Yeah, Big Bad Bros. I don't know what happened at halftime. He must have had a few soy lattes and literally just went absolutely bananas in the third because he was just ragdolling Gawn. And that's something that we're not accustomed to. Another fella, James Jordan, he looked real good after about halftime. Really started to find the ball. I think it was touted to be a little bit of a role change inside the game. But the first half, he was not impressing me at all. Finished on 81. Time on ground was a bit pox at 71%. But after half time, he obviously solidified himself as why we are picking him as a mid-pricer in our forward line, mate. What do you think of his game?
Yeah, as you said, started really slow. I think it was only 5 touches at half time or something like that. Yeah, as the game went on, started to get the ball, scored well for 81. And, I was just saying about Gordon, you can't start him with that score because it will affect his price, but this is going to affect Jordan's price in a positive way. That does count towards what we're picking him for, that 90 or that 81. And same goes for Blake Howes, who we'll probably talk about a bit later, and even Matty Roberts. So, yeah, I was happy with what I saw from Jordan. It was enough, and I was really stoked to see him bounce back from what was a poor start.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree, mate. Absolutely agree. I mean, Matty Roberts, off that half-back line, he looked sensational. Absolutely sensational. A few people were saying that you actually look a little bit like him. So,
here we go. I get Clary, I get Matty Roberts.
I know. Very attractive individual. But Matty Roberts looked really good, and that kick to handball ratio, it's literally a 5 kick to 1 handball ratio. Like, that is just super coach gold. And
Yeah.
he looks so solid down there. I know there was question marks about how he's going to do it. Like, Lloyd's just going to move back there and he's just going to continue on that vintage Seagull Lloyd. But Lloyd was on the wing. So it really seems like that, I guess, changing of the guard, so to speak, has happened. And Matty Roberts is a serious, serious super coach option, if not an on field option, mate. What did you like about his game?
I liked the role most of all. Down back. I know there's a bit more midfield spots now that Adams has gone down and Parker and Mills and all that. But I think for him to be getting consistent footy this season, it was needing to be a bit of a role change with how stacked
Mm-hmm.
the Sydney Swans mid at fully fit can be. So yeah, it was more the role and also the score, 76. You take that,
Oh,
you take that on
absolutely.
field, and yeah, I've got him at M9, but I'd happily field him if I needed to, which I will have to in what 4 rounds when he's not
Yeah.
on the bye. So yeah, I was happy with what I saw, and it was mostly role that impressed.
And he used the ball really, really well. He went at 94%. Like, that is just,
Yeah,
it was sensational. He had 8 marks as well, only three
yeah,
tackles, but we're not picking him for that. He was really good. Another bloke that
mm,
was literally has, I think he was in like 2% of teams. I'm not too sure what he's in now, but this bloke went nuclear. Blake Howes at 123K. I don't. I obviously can't predict the future, but I don't know if he's going to score 91 each week. But just for his cash injection and that rise going into the upcoming rounds, like he was amazing. And I know Jake Berry, obviously, you know, he's broken his collarbone. It didn't look too good when it happened. Ice on it straight away, but I think you really need to start Bowie. Like, he took 7 marks. He's an option at 123K. I think you have to have him, mate. What was your thoughts on him?
yeah. I think you're right. Like I know he's a pretty different player to Bowie, being like I think he's just over 190 centimeters. Bowie's a
Mm-hmm.
bit shorter, but I think fact that he was picked with May, McVee, Tomlinson, Lever,
Yep.
Bowie, all of them picked in that side. It shows that there's still a spot for him in that defensive line. Like I think there was, and even Rivers was playing too. Like I don't think there was actually any Melbourne defenders missing from that back line. Like it was full strength and he was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Gorn said his like training standards were elite, and that's why he got a game. Like he was the best trainer all preseason. Third year in the system, I was a bit worried after his preseason games. There was like very low disposals.
Yep.
But I mean,
Yep.
91 points and 17 touches. It shows that he can find that ball. He will get those spike games, and with that in his price cycle, I find it very hard not to start him.
And not just from a super coach perspective. And I know sometimes,
Mm,
just for the eye test, sometimes good super coach options generally, and I use the word generally in quotation marks, they look like good players. This kid looked really good. He didn't look flustered at
mm.
all. Like, there was a couple of times he had a few one-on-ones there, and he was just cool, calm, and collected. So I would be very surprised if he, obviously, if, you'd assume that he's named next round, but I'd be very surprised if he's not in, upwards of 50% of teams. Moving on now, the other bloke that you and I have had some discussion around, and that's Josh Shaish. No, I joke with that. We're clearly not going there at all. But Caleb Windsor, number 6. They obviously
Yeah.
traded up to get him, and you know everything about the draft. So I'll let you speak a little bit on Windsor, because I know you're not that hot on him, mate.
I'm not, no. Like there's a lot of those high end rookies and even mid prices that I have ahead of him.
Hmm.
I even got Lazaro ahead of him, who's in like half of Windsor's ownership numbers. But I don't like a first year wingman.
Yep.
We saw with Ollie Hollands last year. He played really solid footy, but didn't average that much. It was only around 58 or something. And I think that's probably what we're going to get with Windsor. I don't like that he only had 11 touches in the ruck a game and then 13 touches
Yeah.
against the Swans. Like, it's very low numbers. And I said to you after that 77-point performance where he had the 11 disposals, 2 goals, what if those goals aren't there? And we kind of saw it. You know, his score dropped to 58 without those goals and a couple more
Yep.
touches. And I just think that's what we're going to see. And with Hunter potentially coming back, Billings on the fringes, Laurie on the fringes, all guys who can kind of play that high half forward wing role, I think he could even be a sub risk. Whether that's coming on or off, I think it it could happen. And
Mm-hmm.
even in his draft year, he wasn't really a high possession player either. So I think there's a lot of alarm bells about Windsor. But yeah, what's your thoughts?
See, geez, I know you just gave him a slamming then, but
Yeah,
I'm a little bit more optimistic about him. Looking at his stats, he had a 58, he had 13 possessions, but he went at 62% and had a free against. So I
mm,
just don't like it. On another night, that's easily a 70, a 75, and that's obviously a
yeah,
pass for his price point. I think what I need to be cognizant of is that he is at an elevated price. So, a 58 might be a pass for, say, a 123, but when he's at
yeah,
180K, that really needs to be a 70 or above. I just
mm,
the way that the Melbourne boys, when that free kick was given against him, the Melbourne boys came from everywhere, and I am literally talking the backmen, the forwards, the ruckmen, everyone got around him. And maybe it was because his first game, but I really think that they rate him highly internally. So I think that job security is good. So I'm a little bit adverse to what you think about being the sub risk. When the news came out that your man Billings was the sub risk, I was so surprised by that. And even
yeah,
even whilst the game was going on, I wasn't that worried that Windsor would get subbed off. I thought it'd be Laurie or someone else. So
yeah.
if I need to find coin from somewhere, it will be Windsor. But at the moment, I'm happy to keep him in there. Before we go to the next game, we'll read some of the chat. And as usual, we love having you guys in here. If you're listening to the audio later, well, make the effort to get in the chat when we're live. But I really, really appreciate everyone in here, as we all know. The Surf 420, who impressed you most from opening round? Well, mate, we're going through it, so it'll be up there soon. Global, thank you so much. G'day to you, mate. Thomas Jack, g'day to you, mate. This one, I apologise. It's gone. We can't read that out. Burns, do we think I can still get away with a no premium forward line? I think you can. Yes. But I would be very, very careful on what happens with Sean Darcy, because that could be an absolute game changer. Joshy, what's your thoughts, mate?
Well, I think you can too. I'm still running with it. I'm not as sold on this Jackson stuff that everyone is. Else is, I look at
Mm-hmm.
his price and it's not exactly value. It's 547K, and the way that I would have to get him in would be like a Took out or a Steele out, and then switch one of like Lazaro, Jordan, Reed into the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not. I don't want to do that. I don't want
Yeah.
to completely get rid of like Took and Steele, who I've been big on all preseason, just to get Jackson in. There's a chance that Reedy could play still, which would affect Jackson as well. But I think you can still get away with a no primo forward line. And yeah, I think you got to weigh up who are you actually taking out for Jackson. Like, what are you actually doing to get him in? I'm seeing people completely rip up their structures, and I don't want to do that. So the way I would do it is to get a Steele or a Miller out for him, and I don't want to do that either.
See, I'm not that against getting a Took Miller out for a Jackson, but I'm sure we'll cover that later on.
Yeah.
You got Johnny. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's good to have you here. Very good question as well. Worth fading McKercher and spending that money on defensive rookies when Huswaite, Roberts, and Sanders are on-field options. If there was going to be one of those higher price rookies, I would 100% fade McKercher. 100%. It just seemed to me like And when I say this, there's no disrespect to the footballer himself. Zach Fisher is not an elite footballer, but what makes him an amazing super coach option is the role. And that is just absolutely elite. Like, it's pure seagull. Everyone knows that I had a massive love affair with Aaron Hall when he was playing, and it is literally the same thing. He's not instructed to defend. He's instructed to literally orchestrate and architect the ball to go forward. He's going to get those cheap 1-2s, and I think that really impacts McKercher because we know Sheasel is elite. I just think it comes down to what you think can be shared between those three guys. So, I mean, if I was going to fade one, it would be McKercher. So I definitely think it is worth having a think about it. What's your thoughts, Joshy?
Like McKercher's someone that's in what's he in? He's in 59% of sides. Like that's a lot of teams if he does pop. I think the role is still there. I know there's Fisher and Sheasel down there as well, but against the Saints, I know he scored poorly, but he still had 18 touches, which is
Mm-hmm.
like it's more than enough. You look at the numbers, and it was like one contested, so he's still getting 17 uncontested disposals, which still to me on face value looks like he's still getting those handball receives, kickouts, whatnot, even with those other two in there. And I think Robert Sanders, Husway are fielding options. They are, but I think I do like the security of having Roberts at M9,
Yep,
especially with like there will be a week that I've got Took out from the bye, and I think Roberts is a solid 75-80 to cover that. Uh,
absolutely.
I'm not so confident about a 123K guy there at M9. I think we're really lacking options for that midfield bench besides your Jai Clark. I think Jeremy Sharp's not the guy we thought he was going to be. Jacob Weir didn't
No,
play that well.
no.
So I think I do really like having Roberts as the M9. So
Yep.
to get that, you probably need to start McKercher. So I wouldn't be fading him.
Understandable, mate. Taylor Doherty, good to see you, mate. Thanks for joining in. How much mid-time do we expect Fife to actually get in full games? Enough to affect Brayshaw? Is that an overreaction? I think we need to break this down into two parts, as the question is, because I don't think Fife affects Brayshaw that much at all, personally. And how much mid time do we expect Fife to get in full games? I think when he's actually on the field, he'll just be in the midfield. So that once again comes down to what you think, I guess, Fife's time on ground percentage is going to be. If you think it's only going to be 60, then I think that's 60% full time mid. And we saw like he's going to be managed like that. You cannot deny that. But I think we're going to have a good indication of when that's going to happen. And if anything, I mean, Fife might even be a loop option. That's completely plausible. But I think the one that affects Brayshaw is actually Johnson, because from what I saw in the practice games, it was Brayshaw and Johnson that were actually rotating to the wing and to the centre bounces. So that's just my opinion on that. Joshy, what's your thoughts, mate?
I somewhat agree that it was Johnson that affected Brayshaw, but I think Fife kind of did have a role to play in it too. Just purely because like if you're having Sarong, Young,
Mm-hmm.
and Fife in there, then that's three already, and then Brayshaw had to roll out as well. Yes, he did rotate with Johnson, but I still think it will affect him, the Fife, getting full games. I mean, and Fife had 75% time on ground against
Yep.
Port. So I think that's probably what we're going to see, 70, 75%. I don't think it's ever going to get over 80. But in terms of affecting Brayshaw, is it an overreaction? I think Brayshaw isn't a starter anymore just because of
No, no.
that role in the preseason, which I think with all the options they've got in that midfield now, I think we could see a bit more. So,
Well said, mate. Very well said. We're going to move on to the next game now. And that was Brisbane's interesting game against the Blues. I kind of lost
yes,
interest
yes.
once Brisbane were up by literally, I don't know, I think it was 8 goals at one stage. But there
Yeah.
wasn't much relevance in this game at all. Unfortunately, Coleman went down with an ACL and Doherty went down with an ACL. Dunkley did Dunkley things. Lockie Neal, I was very impressed with. from limited time on ground. When I say that, I mean in context to what he's used to. Again, I mean, Lohman is probably going to get games now, but he scored a 33 from 36% time on ground. That literally ruins him. Jack Carroll was very good for the Blues. He scored a 65 from 35% time on ground. Kicked a very nice goal as well when the momentum was with the Blues. But apart from that, I guess if we're not talking about Zach Williams, because he's not exactly a rookie, his time on ground was annoying. I thought when the game was on the line just before, well, not on the line, when it was starting to heat up and there was a lot going on just before half time and maybe 6 to 7 minutes into that third quarter, he was just on the bench. And I think we've got to really temper our expectations for Zach Williams. And a 73 is probably where he's, going to land. But that's just my thoughts, mate. What did you like about this game, or didn't like, so to speak? Think we've lost Joshy. That's annoying. That's very annoying.
Oh,
You there, mate?
I think so.
Yes. We do
Am I back?
apologise
Yeah,
for the technical
yeah.
difficulties.
Not at my house tonight, so internet's not as good as usual. But I think just in terms of Williams, I think he was always going to gas out a little bit. That was his first AFL game in 18 months. The
Yep.
only match play he had was 60 minutes the week before in the VFL. So it was basically his first full game in 18 months at any level. So I think I'm not too fussed about that, especially when he started the first quarter of 8 touches, leading on the ground. 73 points, you take that. I think
Yep.
you definitely have to pick him now. I think it's a non-negotiable now, especially with that role. I think he took some kick-ins. Ash
Mm-hmm.
Hansen, one of their line coaches, said that he's a very, very important player for them, and that even
Yeah.
more so now that Docky's out. They've been playing a lot more midfield lately, but uh, it's still a big factor. But your question in terms of what else interested me, not much at all. You touched on Carroll, 65 and 30 something percent game time. If he's named round one, I'm going to have a really good look at it, especially with Doherty out.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
really, other than that, this game's pretty shit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Lohman's probably going to get games, as we spoke about. If Carroll gets games, he's 100% worth a look. But apart from that, every time I see the name Patrick Cripps, I get PTSD from last year. Jared Lyons is a talking point,
Yes,
250K.
I was just
But
looking him up. I thought
yeah,
he'd
I don't
be in
know.
war, but yeah,
A lot of Brisbane supporters don't seem to rate him, so to speak. They reckon Dev Robertson will just literally walk back in, and Lyons is the first to get dropped. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
not too sure on that. Maybe in draft, I don't know, mate. You're the draft expert here, not me. So yeah,
Yeah,
I guess he did look good, but he only had 70% time on ground, so that kind of whichever way you look into it, kind of tells me he's not really in their plans going forward. I'm not too sure on that. I'm definitely not for Classic. No. But we'll get to some questions now. I like this one. Mason Cox's goggles. Should Brisbane be investigated for tanking after blowing a 46-point lead to Carlton? Well, I don't know. It was just such a weird thing to happen. It was so. I definitely didn't expect it at all. What about yourself, mate?
uh, yeah. It really annoyed me. I was at the pub for it with a couple of Carlton mates, and the joint was full of Carlton fans, and I think Carlton is easily my least favorite team in the comp. I absolutely hate them. And seeing them come back and their fans just going off, it was doing my head in. So the AFL need to investigate Brisbane for letting the whole AFL public down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Lygon Street would have been absolutely pumping after that. Thomas Jack, the only way I feel viably I can get Jackson in is through Sheasel out and moving rookies. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't be doing that with Sheasel. What's your thoughts, Joshy?
Yeah, well, it just comes back to what I was saying before. You got to look at who are you going out to get Jackson, like whether it's a Steele, a Miller, or even a Sheezel, like Thomas is saying. And all three of those players I just mentioned, I would still rather over Jackson. Um, Even looking at it for a full season point of view, like 6 to 8 weeks, what are you doing with Jackson after that? It's not like you're picking him for a money maker because he's not doesn't have much value at all at 547K, second most expensive forward. Um, I know you're probably picking him to get 118 points per game like he did last year without Darcy in the first 8 weeks, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I'd rather start some other guys that I've been on all preseason.
Is it just because you don't want to, I guess, go against everything you've done previously, though? You say that you don't
I
want to go against players that you've been on previously, but if it comes out, well, it has, that he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, surely, like, we had this conversation before. At worst, his floor is probably 100.
mm,
The only thing that I would advise for Jackson is if you go Jackson, I wouldn't be going a Naismith either. I know Naismith's probably going to make money, but I think the value in that loop being able to flip Jackson to the ruck line and then cover Gorn and Grundy when needed is that would be so handy, so handy. And I think I'd rather that than, I guess, whatever Naismith makes, because realistically, unless you start with a ruck forward in the forward line, you're going to be using a trade on it anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at doing. It's not set in stone, but I mean, we've still got a couple of days away until we actually have to lock everything in. And as you said, mate, Freo played the last game, so I know there's been
yeah,
talk on
yeah.
Liam Reedy coming in and rucking as well, who's a young ruckman. Footy Rhino on Twitter's already highlighted that. There's been a few other people that have highlighted it as well,
Mhm.
but I just can't see I think he's 23, a 23-year-old ruckman coming in and having 50% of the ruck straight away. If anything, I think it would bode well for Jackson because the only other place that he could play is either the bench or up forward. So Jackson's going to have more midfield time. And he doesn't actually have to just be a ruckman. Like we've seen him play in the past as a midfielder, which is intriguing and very out there, but does bode well for Supercoach. So I'm interested. Are you interested in the Jackson move at all, mate, or no?
Like I do have interest in him. It's just I prefer the Sheezels, the Millers, the Steele more. Like you said, like what is Jackson's floor? It probably is 100, but I might be completely different to people in thinking this, but I think Took and Steele can both go 115 plus this year. Like they've both done 120 plus twice. They look
Yep.
fit again. That was really only what was ruining their scoring the last couple of years. It wasn't role. It wasn't it wasn't form. It was just fitness. And they're both fit again. So I think they have significant value compared to a Jackson.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
you're probably right. Like Rady's not going to come in straight away and go bang if he does
No.
play. But I think the reason he has been floated by Footy Rhino is the fact that moving Jackson out of that forward line, it like kind of stuffs around with their structure a bit. I think they do like him down there when they can get him down there. But I guess it's just comes down to how much faith do they have in a Tabernar who's barely got games recently, or Voss, or some of those
Amos
guys
as
to partner
well.
Amos. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he's
Yep.
already in there though. Like I think
Yep.
he needs a partner. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, it's something we need to watch, and the fact that they play the last game, it's going to be risky times. I think, oh, not risky, but nervous times if you do start him and he's on that extended bench or something. Ready.
Yep. No, very well said, mate. Very well said. We'll get to the next game, which was Gold Coast v Richmond, and this looked like it was going to be 100 points at one stage. It looked like the Gold Coast
Mm.
Suns were literally just going to walk all over them. Um, I guess the real relevant players here from a Supercoach perspective, I guess you can throw Real in there. He had 20 clearances for 137 points, which is just insane, absolutely insane. Took Miller. I mean, you're huge on him, mate. He just took things, had 116. Sam Flanders had 26 posies for 124. I know there was a lot of conjecture regarding Flanders if last week was just, an outlier game, but he just couldn't get the ball last game in the practice games. And we know Dimmer's already said, like, that's their midfield. It's not going to change. It's going to be Took, Noah Anderson, Flanders, and obviously Real. They're not having anyone else come through there. And I guess Sexton as well. I mean, Sexton went at 71% and he had 21 posies and 8 marks for 73. Like that doesn't scream 73. Any other day, that's a 90 plus. Like, I think he's absolutely viable to field. Bodie Hewland, no interest there. No thank you at all. Jaden Short, just, he did his thing. He scored a 130. A lot of people have jumped on him, which is understandable. Naismith had a 93, and Samson Ryan got subbed out. So that's very interesting if Nank isn't back for, obviously, round 1. And someone else that I think you've got to pick is Gibkiss, just because of that 76 in the price cycle. Literally had 9 touches, but we've said it all preseason, if you've listened to us. He's going to be a slow burn, and the job security is absolutely sensational. And another bloke to finish us off was Seth Campbell. Kicked 2 sausages, had 9 touches, scored a 70 as a forward. I'm not going there. I can understand why you might, but 80% time on ground and went at 66 DE. So didn't use the ball well. So I think obviously that 70 is inflated by the 2 goals, which, yeah, I mean, again, not that relevant of a game. It was more primos than rookies in this one. What did you think of the game, mate?
Yeah, well, we touched on Took. I saw enough there. He's gone back-to-back 116s now, pre-season game and this game. And then both games, like 75%, 78% CBA. So that rolls there. He's fit again.
Yep.
He always looks like in both the practice games, he kicked a goal and then he kicked it behind against Richmond. He always looks like he can hit that scoreboard. Quite a few times I saw him pushing for leads around that 45 meter mark, going into forward line. Oh shit!
Mm-hmm. Yep. No,
Oh,
your
there we go.
internet's
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Your
saw him
internet
like,
is literally
oh
like
shit,
the equivalent of Pleb
not
and
good.
Verns put together.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. As I was saying, like he looks like he can hit that scoreboard. He pushes for those 45, 50 meter leads quite a lot, and also
Mm-hmm.
looks for handball receives outside 50. Found the
Yep.
ball both games with 33 and 28 touches. I'm big at pick. Flanders bounced back, but I'm still got that 0 primo forward line. Uland, as you said, not an option.
Yeah.
Sexton, just pick him. And then the Campbell he piqued my interest a little bit if we get really lack of options for rookies.
Yep.
But on Naismith, I think given Ryan was subbed out after a horrible game and then also a horrible game in the preseason game, Cozzy only had 4 disposals. I think even with Lynch and Nank back, they actually could still roll with Naismith as that second ruck and second key forward, like they did a little bit with Soldo. So that's another thing. And other than that, like I think you touched on all of it, but Short's 130 is something that really piqued my interest as well.
Yeah. I mean, well, he just literally did whatever he wanted, and we know he's done it before. He's got that halfback role again, so he's completely viable in my opinion. Absolutely. Again, back to the questions. Like this from the Sir, is Jordan the only mid-pricer worth going for in the forward line compared to Fife, Harms and Billings? Well, as sad as Joshy used to say, Billings is a non-option. Fife is, we all know Fife's going 160 over the first 10, so absolute lock. And Harms, I currently don't have Harms, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone for going Harms at all. It's just, I needed to find some money, and he was the easiest option that I felt comfortable with in ditching. So He's not in my team at all. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I've got Jordan. Harms I'm weighing up with. I've got D'Ambrosio down back at the moment, but I have had a look at Ethan Phillips and the Harms versus a 123k rookie from middle forward line and your D'Ambrosio, just because it means I can field Lazaro over a 123k rookie down back. But he's not in there at the moment. But in terms of the question, I think Fisher's one that is like worth going in the forward line purely just because of that role. I know I think he's an average footballer, but you can't
Mm.
ignore a 36 disposal halfback performance in that score. And then, yeah, I think Fife is just a necessity with his ownership. Billings has completely ruined
Oh, can you
himself
can
now.
you can you just repeat what you said about Fife again, just one more time, mate?
He's a necessity now with his ownership,
Ah,
Scoops.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
49%.
Yep.
It's just too much.
It is. It
He
is.
needs to fucking fix that handball to kick ratio. I'm telling you that much. But yeah, I
Yep.
just if Fife goes wrong, I think you've got that harms to go down to.
Yep.
And I don't think the Billings pick is completely dead yet in terms of in season because I think he could bottom out after that shit score. And then if he can secure himself into that best 22 at some point, then you could be getting him for 215, 220k, even cheaper. Goodwin did say that he's still learning the system, but they do think he's going to be a really good player for them. So if he gets in around round 6, round 7 full time, then maybe a downgrade option. I don't think that pick is completely dead in terms of in season.
Well, there you go. Listeners, viewers, you've just heard it right here and right now. Round 6, round 7, you're going to pick up Jack Billings from Monty, 140k.
Uh,
Easy.
oh,
Easy.
140.
Mariam Abbas, good to have you here, mate. What are your thoughts on Huswaite as an on-field option? Is he a sub risk? I think he's just shown way too much to be a sub risk. If he was going to be a sub risk, I think he would already be the sub, so to speak, when they announce it. I don't think so at all. Like he surprised me so much, and he has looked very good in that Hawks midfield. Really good. Joshy, is he a sub risk in your opinion, mate?
I think most rookies are sub risks, but I don't think he is. They do have Day and Dylan Moore to come back in. Dylan Moore is probably going to be named round 1. Day, round 3, round 4.
Yep.
Uh,
We're struggling to hear you, mate.
you knocked it on their head as the third game of the round. So
Mate, we cannot hear a thing you're saying. Like absolutely nothing. So we will move on because that, yeah, he sounded like you were, from outer space, putting in some Morse code then, mate. Move on to Embit of Joel. Great to have you here, mate. You'd be up and about after the Swans win. We hope to God that Joshy can fix his internet because right now we're not getting anything from him. What do you boys think of Flanders to Jackson if cash allows? I think you've got to look at this in blocks. So obviously they have a bye early on. That's Gold Coast, of course. I don't think you'd want... What's going on here? I don't think you'd want... Sorry, we're just having a lot of difficulties here. No, Joshy's gone. He might be back soon. Sorry. But obviously we know Gold Coast are having that early bye. If you've got Flanders there and Took, I don't know if you want both of them, so to speak. I really think that if you can get Flanders to Jackson, if you're looking at it in segments of the year, you just take Jackson straight up. And then maybe you go Jackson back down to Flanders when obviously the time permits, when Darcy's back. I see nothing wrong with Flanders as a pick. I just think maybe Jackson has more upside without Darcy there. And as we spoke about before, they're not going to bring in literally an untried ruck to play, say, 50-50. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. Good to have you back, mate. Wherever you're at right now,
Right, this
terrible
internet.
internet. Terrible internet. We do
Yeah.
apologise to everyone on the stream and the audio, but we'll try and, when things like this happen, normally it's pleb because he's got, middle-aged internet. We try and just move on as soon as possible. But if you can get Flanders to Jackson, I would highly, highly consider that. Absolutely. Johnny Smith said, is Taranto a first cheap primo option? Joshy, what's your thoughts on Taranto? Because no interest at all. A tick under 600k for a bloke that can't hit a barn door? No.
He is the worst ball user in the league. Like, I actually genuinely think he's the worst ball user in the league. Some of his kicks, like 9 clangers on the weekend, only the 15 touches, which is also something that really caught me off guard because he's always been a bad ball user, but he's always been a pig and finds the ball regularly. So the fact that he only had 15 touches is another red flag. But 53% efficiency, 9 clangers. He had some absolutely woeful kicks, like horrible.
Is that not just a Taranto game, though?
That was worse than usual. That was horrific. Yeah. Usually, like his efficiency is that, but he got pretty much half of his normal output in terms of possessions. And I don't know about his actual numbers in CBAs and roll, but some of those kicks, like there was uncontested kicks that he completely hacked it, and there was Gold Coast goals. So if he keeps playing like that, he's going to get dropped. So
I mean,
yeah,
they've signed him for the
do not
next,
think he should pick him.
3 decades. So you'd want to hope he improves soon. But obviously, he's not in there for his kicking. But you'd want to hope something happens. Honestly, Global, good to see you, mate. Hewitt is a decent pod, mid-price pick with no Doc and Walsh still a while away. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Another player I've got PTSD about that cork that he had. I think it was a few years back, but it's priced at 440k. He had 27 touches for 106 Supercoach. And I mean, could be a good draft option as well. Like, I think you've got blokes like, if you want to go up from that, you've got Crouch, you've got Amon, you've got Martin, or for even cheaper, why not just get a Wines? I mean, I'm not endorsing Wines, so to speak. I mean, just in comparison with Hewitt. And I guess it's another reason that you don't have to watch Carlton as well. So that's also a positive. Thomas Jack, what are your thoughts about starting a GWS forward, then flipping at the bye? Green, Hogan. Joshy, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
Toby Green maybe, but Jesse Hogan, absolute. Even Toby, I don't really want to do it. I think
He's going to lose cash.
flirting. Yeah, well, what did he actually score on the weekend? He scored 63. Yeah, 63.
If you're going to go one, like Toby Green's not even in the conversation. It's literally like it's Jesse Hogan.
Yeah, what did he score?
I mean, Hogan was good. He killed us. He scored 113 and kicked 4 sausages. So he did really well. Which is a fantastic segue into the last game of the round, which, I mean, GWS, they really should have won by more because Collingwood got some late consolation goals. Like, it was only 32 points in the end, but this really deserved to be around that 50-point mark, if not 9 goals. It just, from a Supercoach perspective, Tom Green just went absolutely bananas, just did his thing. We all expected that, though, because he really is an elite player, and I wouldn't begrudge anyone from starting with him. Nick Dacos, he scored 131. Didn't use the ball as well as he normally does, so it's probably a little bit unders. And apart from that, like, Weir wasn't good, even though GWS played well. He only scored a 48. I know Harvey Thomas, basically a graveyard pick, which is unfortunate. He did nothing. I mean, he did score a 40, but it's like there's better options out there. I mean, even Cadman, I mean, I thought his game was a pass, honestly. There was nothing wrong with that. And Charlie Dean, I mean, he'll continue to play. He scored a 55. Don't think his job security is fantastic in the future. In the near future, it is. But besides that, this game wasn't that relevant either, honestly. What was your thoughts on it,
Mm.
mate? Obviously, I'm sure you enjoyed watching the Pies get beat, but anything Supercoach wise?
Well, I pretty much just have to base this game off the stats because I was pretty shit faced and missed 90% of it on Saturday night. But
And that's the expert
Cadman did
insight you
enough
will
for
get
me,
from us
as you
on the
said.
Supercoach Hub. Expert insight, absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah, 55 points for Cadman. It's completely enough for me when he's got North and West Coast in the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yes, he's going to have those slow games, but he's also going to have those spike games. Like he also scored. He also kicked 4 goals against the Swans in the first practice game and had 16
Yep.
touches. Uh, it looks like he's playing that second ruck role occasionally. Riccardi also has been playing it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
what I like most about him is that he's not the actual key forward in that Giants side. Like I think Hogan,
Yep.
Riccardi are the ones and twos, and then Cadman's the third tall. I think that's going to really benefit for him than a usual like second year key forward. So he did enough for me. Dacos, just pick him. He went well again. I saw some people asking in previous pods about DeGoey. You can't pick him now after that
No,
score,
God,
which was a
no.
43.
No.
No, absolutely not. And then, yeah, as you said, not much. Maybe Lipinski, 87, backing up what was a
I mean,
good practice game.
he was serviceable. He kicked 2 behinds. If he kicks those as goals, he's probably putting up 100 and entices more people. But
Mm.
nah, no. It's just, no.
I think one of the biggest talking points that we need to bring up is Titch got subbed off, and that could open up the door for Finlay McRae to come in for him or someone else. And I was asking you this earlier today. If Finlay McRae is named on Friday night in that best 22, not a sub, are you going to pick him?
Absolutely no way in hell. No way.
Yeah, because some
No.
people are looking at it, flirting with it.
No, no, you've got to
Yeah.
wait. You've got to wait. Like it was announced today, they signed another year contract extension. But if it was 102K, I mean maybe, but he's 150K. I just no way.
Mm.
Speaking on that, like Titch just looked, and I know Titch has never been electric, but he just looked off and slow. So I would be happy to see McRae come in. I don't think he will. It's hard to say because we didn't have any injuries out of it, which is obviously good. But I don't think you can't go into the game with a Tommy Mitchell and Finn McRae. I don't think. And right now, after Titch is subbing out, I'd probably have McRae ahead, which was I didn't think I'd be saying that. But yeah, literally there's only one Supercoach relevant player from the Pies right now, and that's Nick Dacos at 650K. I think he was in 69% of teams. So I assume everyone that's either here in the stream or listening on the audio will have him. Harry Himmelberg had 101 with 24 disposals. I know a few people were looking at him around the 450K mark. That doesn't scream pick me, so to speak. Briggs was just Briggs. He was very good. Toby McMullen, I mean, he came on. He had 38% time on ground. He was a sub. He only came on for injury because of Cal Ward's shoulder. Lockie Whitfield, and I was speaking to you today, mate, like he did whatever he wanted. He had that halfback role. He had 33 disposals, 14 marks, but he only scored 108.
Yeah, I don't think that scores what you want from a game like that. Like you look at 33 touches, 14 marks with a good kick to handball ratio, you're thinking 130, 140, not 109.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, like another one though is just with Ware. I don't think he's an option anymore.
No.
I think just purely because Perryman's been cleared for round 1 now.
Yep.
And also Callahan is not far away at all, and they're two
Well,
wingmen
he
guys.
was in the rooms after the game, and it was reported that he was right to go for round 1, but then he stepped on a nail down at the beach and was on crutches.
Yeah,
So
right.
that was I don't know how much having a nail go through your foot's going to affect you. It might a
Yeah,
lot. It might heal up. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, Weir's not an
yeah,
option either.
no,
And just to reference what you said about Cadman, I really thought he only had 2 moments, and it seemed to really boost his score. Kicked a goal, I think it was late in the first, which put him up to around 30 points, and then did nothing until the third quarter until he kicked another one. So we're definitely going to be relying on goals there. I don't think this
yeah,
second ruck option or going into the ruck, so to speak, is actually going to be very fruitful. It just seems like, hopefully, as you said, if he's the third string forward, he gets the third string defender, and hopefully he can kick a bag. So I don't see anything wrong with having Cadman on the bench, honestly. Anything else to add, mate?
Uh, Harvey Thomas, I know he only scored 40, but with Ward's injury, maybe that's a bit more job security. But as I said,
Yep,
like Perryman and Callahan are coming in as well. So I
absolutely.
think those guys on the fringes in terms of McMullen, Thomas, and Ware, who are all guys that we thought we could pick as non-options now, with the guys that are clearly going to come in.
Yep.
And then from Collingwood, nothing to add at all.
Yep. Perfect, mate. We'll get to some questions and we'll just go through our VCs and Cs and then we'll get out of here. Ambit of Joel, is there any lingering thoughts Hustwaite could do with Cam McKenzie? I seriously cannot pick a Hawks rookie to save my life. Was it Ward the year that he was 180k? I had him up until like around 15 or something. And then again, Cam McKenzie at an elevated price. So I hope to God he doesn't. Hustwaite looks phenomenal for 184k. I hope to God he doesn't leave that midfield because he has looked fantastic. What's your thoughts, mate?
I think the Mackenzie one, we all picked them off. I think it was just that one game. But I think we saw 2 solid performances from Hustwaite, and it wasn't just possession wise. Like I think he had 24 touches and 18 touches or something along those lines. It was more the role. Like the role looked really good.
Yep.
Adds a bit of a different dynamic to that midfield. Warple, Ward, uh, even Newcomb are all like kind of short in terms of
Yep.
mids, like around the comp. Hustwaite's that 190 plus guy who's been likened to Pendlebury, likened to those taller midfielders in his draft year and even in this preseason.
Yep.
So I think he's not going to do it, but if he does, there's going to be guys to go down from him too. But start him, I reckon.
Absolutely. Scorched Earth One says, what are your thoughts on Bonner? Riley Bonner is 284k. He's a midfielder. He's looked good in the preseason. He's probably going to get DPP as well. But the only thing that I have concerns over, and I know they're not direct like-for-like players, and this probably coincides with my thoughts on Ari Show and Makers as well, is that they didn't have Crouch, and they didn't have Zach Jones, and they didn't have Sinclair. Now, regardless, things are going to change when those 3 come back into the team. Does Bonner still, he doesn't play the exact same role, but is he still going to get the amount of possessions that he had when they were out? Because they're going to eat into it. Like, we know that they're going to get the ball. They're not in there to just play lockdown. Like, I genuinely don't know enough, and he hasn't been on my radar at all. So and for 284k, it is an easy pass for me. And what's your thoughts, Joshy?
Yeah, completely agree with everything you said. If I wish he was defender, that would have really made things a lot better. But the mid only, I think, makes it a non-option. I think especially if guys like Jared Lyons presenting himself for a bit cheaper, and like all the other high-end mid prices we have and high-end rookies, I think just I don't think you can pick Bonner, not with 3 genuine best 22 players still to come in and to come in early.
Yep. No, understood. This is not a question, but I like it anyway. Thomas Jack, you are clearly a very intelligent human. What are my thoughts on Josh's internet and camera today? Camera looks absolutely divine. Internet is about as good as Pleb's Supercoach knowledge. Peter Costello, good to see you, mate. Lads, hope you had a ripper weekend. Is it worth rolling a Jacko Flanders and Fisher combo F1 to 3, or pick 2 from those and build around it? If so, which 2 would you choose? If you're going to go 2 of them, I wouldn't be going 3. If you're going to go 2, Fisher is an absolute lock. And then I guess if you've got the cash for Jackson, I'd go Jackson. That's like, I'd love, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but I'd love if Freo just come out and said, look, this is what the go is. This is what's happening. Darcy's been sidelined for 8 weeks. Bang, perfect. Jackson, absolutely. That's fantastic. But if cash isn't an option, I'd just go Jackson and Fisher. But there's nothing wrong with Flanders. Like, Flanders is a very good player. And we know when he finds the ball, he's going to score very well in Supercoach. Your thoughts, Joshy?
I'm probably the worst person to ask the zero primo for when this question has 2 primos. But if you want to go with it, then if you want to go with it. Like, Flanders and Jacko are both in quite a few teams. Personally, I'm going value up forward because I just like what it does to the rest of the team, and I do like the mid-priced options. But if you really rate Jackson and Flanders, then it is worth rolling it. Especially with Flanders, I think does actually present some genuine value. He's the one that I'm really worried about fading in terms of that up forward primo. But yeah, if so, which 2 we choose, I'd probably go Flanders and Fisher if I was to pick 2 of those 3.
Very nice, mate.
Yeah.
Very nice. This is going to be our last question, I think. Actually, we've got one more that we'll throw in there. Thoughts on Nazai Wanganeen-Malira hearing Sinclair more midfield when he comes back? Webster out potentially helps. Is it his backline now? Honestly, at that price, at 475k, I just wouldn't touch. I just wait on it. Like, because then you get to see, you get the data. And then when all the data's in front of you, you can make an educated decision on what's going to happen. He's 475k. It's not like you're paying, 380 trying to predict a breakout, because he's at that elevated price. He's not at premium price, so to speak, but I just think you can get more data and then make a better decision regarding Wanganeen-Malira. But yeah, what's your thoughts, Joshy? Any love for him, mate? He's currently in 7% of teams, so there clearly is a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I just did a quick little count up of primos I think could finish as a top 8 defender back there. And I counted up 11 guys, and that wasn't including Wanganeen-Malira, wasn't including Nick Martin, who is going to get defensive status at some stage, wasn't including Carl Amon, wasn't including Max Holmes. So I think just because of the sheer volume of guys that can be top 8, other than in the side Wanganeen-Malira, I completely agree with you to just wait on him. And as you're saying, it's not like it was a Kadeen Coleman 398k price or a mid 300s. It's a pretty much primo price. You're not paying that much more to get a Lockie Whitfield in or a Hayden Young. So I think just wait and see, just purely because there's genuinely 11, 12, 13 guys that can be top 8 this year in that back line.
Wonderful. Perfect, mate. And our last question. For an old fella from Port Adelaide, how do you fellas prefer to eat your prawns? Honestly, with Thousand Island dressing, it's perfect. Or if you're going to barbecue them, a little bit of garlic on top, some chili flakes. Wonderful. That's how I like to eat the prawns. What about yourself, Joshy?
Prawns are good, but I reckon they're best when they're cooked and they're in a fried rice or something, or a paella, or even, I don't know, anything cooked, really. I do love the cooked prawns in a fried rice.
Wonderful. We can do the next live stream with you making up dinner for everyone. Sounds fantastic.
Oh, God.
And just a note on our wonderful Port Adelaide correspondent, this man knows everything about Port there is to know and worth knowing. So if you ever need anything Port Adelaide, just try and find him on Twitter. He's an absolute genius. Loves the team, hates Adelaide. So don't bring up anything to do with Adelaide or he will rip shreds through you. Joshy, we've been on for an hour. It's time to end this. We're going to end it on our VCs and Cs for the week, mate. Who are you going with?
Well, at the moment with Naismith at R3, I'll probably just have the straight C. And looking at the fixture, a little fiery mid called Zach Butters has a West Coast this round, and I think I'm going to slap the C on him.
Yep, wonderful. Nick Dacos has got Sydney at the G Friday night. I can't envisage him going anything less than 120. So he will have the VC, and I don't know if he goes 105 or 110, it's either going to be Butters or Bont, and that will probably lead me into my decision regarding whether I take a loop in. So that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, Dakes into Butters or Bont, not too sure. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined into the live stream tonight. We really, really appreciate everyone that is always in here. We couldn't do this without you guys. And for everyone that listens on the audio, thank you so much again. If you see Verns or Pleb floating around on Twitter, always remember to get stuck into them for not joining us tonight. You can find me on X at ScobyBryant36. Joshy, where can the listeners find you, mate?
On X at JG2325. And sorry about the internet tonight. I'm at Misso's house, and we'll be back at my house next week.
You just cut out, mate. So that was at JG2325. Is that correct? Yep.
Yep. And then I just apologise for the internet.
Perfect.
I'm at the Misso's house tonight, and next week I'm back at my house. So sorry about it.
Wonderful. Everybody, you know where to find us. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow the Hub on Twitter. Join the Discord. Conversation regarding Supercoach. And for all kinds of Supercoach, not just AFL. Join in for the NRL, obviously, BBL season when it's up and running. Just sport in general. Like us on Linktree. Like us on YouTube. Likes all around. And as always, thank you so much to everyone that's been here. Thank you to our sponsor, Honeyball. Go and check them out. They're running a discount on some premium services, which updated injury list, inside quotes, inside media, everything that you can find that you would think would improve your Supercoach team. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.